Behind the southern charm lies razor-blade smiles and hearts of darkness.
Monsters we are.
You know the rest of that sentiment and the reasoning behind it.
The truest lie ever sung.
It is not in seeking monstrousness that we stave off the monsters of our hearts and thoughts.
We are monsters dead, and truly so.
Yet our monstrousness is solely in seeking to live.
Seeking to be that most human of animals.
Monsters we are.
Monsters we are.
The better to embrace the truth of our dead humanity.
The Coast After Dark is a mature-themed Discord play by Post Server based in and exploring the V5 world of darkness in and around the Mississippi Gulf Coast region.
It has a small local population with over 14 million tourists that visit annually.
Roughly an hour's time is all that is needed to travel from end to end.
The geography and size of the region has created a unique power structure that is formally known as the Council of Twilight.
It is sometimes called the Pentarchy.
Sometimes affectionate.
Sometimes oozing with disdain.
Come explore and safely experience the darker parts of the sun-kissed landscape
and your imaginations.
So before we dive back in, before we immerse ourselves back into the night and times of these immortal monsters, we take a wide view of the coast. We find ourselves on the far western fifth of the coast. Most people don't, when thinking of Mississippi, assume that it is, in fact, as subtropical as New Orleans. Most people don't think that when they think or envision Mississippi in their minds, that it is, in fact, as subtropical as Florida. They think of the heat, but they think of it as something separate than those two other well-known, well-envisioned environments. But it is, in fact, exactly that, and then some. Because while Florida has ocean-washed shores and New Orleans has spirit-washed locales of low-rank swampy areas, Mississippi has the exact same as both those places, plus the advent of being inhospitable to most other varieties of fauna. What grows in the mud in Mississippi is hardier than most other subtropical forests. It's hardier than, angrier than, more determined than other bayous and creeks. Trees that grow in Mississippi ring themselves and plant themselves so deep that even when stumped, there is more than likely going to be continued growth and saplings springing up from that root system. The mud don't really give much back to the day, and it gives less back to the night. So those trees, those groves here along the coast are deeper and darker. The shadows hang and accumulate as if they are living individuals flocking together like family and friends from long gone by. And in one such place we turn our gaze as a soft, lilting, clipped northeastern accented voice rings out. You can almost hear the manicured fingernails in that voice. You can almost hear the long-legged, besuited pants of some upwardly mobile individual. Someone who reminds you instinctively and instinctually like Katharine Hepburn. So what are you saying there, Charlie? You can almost hear that old news radio voice in this modern accented presentation. It's very light, but it's still there, toying with the edge of the mind. And are you sure that you don't need me there with you? The response is a equally cultured, though different accented voice, a Latin inspired, a Hispanic inspired. You'll be there in spirit, of course. And yet, this is our time. Grand Bay has sent their message. And there's nothing the Silent One can ever do to stop us at this point. And everyone will know that it is in fact. And then we shift back to Vanessa running across the beach. We shift back to Vanessa carrying Sasha as if he is a 5 foot and a little more length football. She is hurtling and laughing at the chaos left in her wake. Now, most kindred immediately have this connotation as to what a risk and a threat to the masquerade is. Every kindred knows that clear-cut violence. Everyone knows that surviving a gunshot at point-blank range. Everyone knows that things that could be viewed easily as more than mortal could potentially become a breach. Everything that they personally do in that vein could become a breach. Everyone knows this. Everyone has this connotation. What most people don't have, and most people don't understand, and most kindred tossed by the wayside, it is not ever solely what the kindred does. The number one rule, the true tradition that is at the foundation of every of the other traditions, the one thing that makes a difference between those who climb the rungs of power and those who are beat across the head by those rungs of that ladder of power is not what you do. It's what you can get away with. Don't get caught. And that includes what's left in your wake. That includes that unforgotten or that unlicked feeding wound of leaving someone alive. That includes so many other small things that add up if and when someone finds out. So running with another apparent human as if they are in fact at football. What is it that Vanessa intends to do? Because there's intention and then there's action. Just because you decide a thing doesn't mean that's what happens. Because decidedly because changes what was.
Let's see. As soon as she gets out of sight from the people that are going after her, she does want to oh crap. She wants to go back to. This is gonna be terrible. I didn't specify where exactly she ran. She wants to go back to Julia's car so that she can drive back to. She's gonna go back to Hole in the Ground to see if she can meet back up with Haas and Oliver.
Okay.
But yeah, she'll try to remain out of sight from those hostile individuals, and try to get back to Julia's car.
Here's the absolute funny thing, and if such things were actually possible in the world in which these kindred exist. While most people don't assume that Gulfport is anything more, especially Gulfport Beach, is anything more than a tourist trap, it is so much more than that. Yes, hundreds of cruise ships and yachts and recreational vehicles litter the landscape, well, the waterscape there at Gulfport along the beach. Just a several couple of football fields southwest of where everyone gathers there at Gulfport Beach, not far from the harbor master's office, not far from the marina and the docks that have launched hundreds and hundreds of thousands of cruise ships and recreational vehicles and private yachts and fishing vessels and tour boats and the like. Just 2 football fields southwest of there. Millions of pounds of tonnage from imported locations around the world land and begin making their way landbound, usually across the coast and across the nation. It is in fact a gateway and one of the lesser patrolled, lesser theater of security inspired locations where entrance to the United States happens. A lot of your parcels, your packages, your Walkman, you know, the hip hop things that the kids are using these days, your iPods and your Zunes come into the country, as well as your Tamagotchis and your Magic the Gathering cards, all of the things that don't need as much on the surface embargo. They don't need as much tariffs, and most of those things are taken care of elsewhere. And because of the low tax bracket that Mississippi has for almost everything, it's one of the more cost-effective ways of getting things into the country. It's taken for granted. No one thinks about it. It just happens. So there's always ships. There's always these huge cargo-laden vessels docking and being unloaded and being carried across vast amounts of distances from this one singular, small, out-of-the-way point. So as Vanessa makes it back to the vehicle, back to the parking lot, and contemplates on heading across 90, speeding down north of over 25th and crossing that bridge there just past Popeyes and Church's Texas Chicken, and moving past 25th, heading dead on towards 34th to make that right and head towards the hole in the ground. The activity within visual range is not unusual. It's taken for granted. It's part of the backdrop. It's part of the background. Whenever you're at the beach or near the beach or driving south or north along 90, going east and west across the coast, it's backdrop. You don't really think much of it. There's no reason to pay any attention to it. Usually. Do Vanessa's successes thus far? We're not going to roll. We're going to simply ask. Total dice pool for Vanessa's wits plus drive.
Plus what? And you said what is her pool?
Yes.
4.
Hoo-hoo. Well, again, it's just backdrop. It's just noise. It's nothing to be considered in that direction as she makes her way north across 25th Avenue. Yet, making sure that she's not followed, making sure that the vehicles that are reenacting every horrible scene from the Keystone Cops there on the beach are not in her shadow, are not chasing her down. She glimpses the import-export dock just there. And normally the activity is what it is. Vanessa has never been on the Ebon Queen. has she?
No.
So she doesn't recognize why that cargo ship is filled with people. Not the usual, longshoremen and dock workers and the huge cranes loading one trailer after the next off the ship. Vanessa has never been on the coast definition of entertainment. The Ebon Queen is Disneyland for adults. The Ebon Queen is every great Six Flags over America. The Ebon Queen is Las Vegas, Reno, and Hollywood rolled into one. To top it off, the Ebon Queen is in fact Broadway for those who live on the coast. Every vice can be enacted, whether it is gluttonous eating, inebriation, titillation, blind, mindless entertainment of all variety, including but not limited to full-fledged Broadway-level productions, concerts, gambling. The Ebon Queen is in of itself a coast institution. And while it typically docks in places such as Long Beach or Pass Christian, in Diamond Head, somewhere along the lines of the Way of Bank St. Louis or Waveland, while it typically is in places like D'Iberville or just Ocean Springs or somewhere along that portion of the coast, sometimes even near Biloxi itself, down along where the Beau Rivage and Hard Rock Casino is. It rarely, if ever, visits Mississippi City. It rarely, if ever, visits Gulfport. It rarely is in this area to begin with. Yet, as Vanessa speeds north along 25th Avenue, the Ebon Queen and all that it entails, the extra lights, the extra security, the extra hornet's nest of adults flocking on and fleeing off, is present in Gulfport.
He's definitely taking mental notes of the place, and it's just like, I have to come back sometime later to check the place out. It looks really cool and amazing, and reminding her of like Las Vegas and other crazy places.
Making her way north across 25th Avenue, it is roughly 4.5-6 minute drive, especially as she's fairly sure that there's nothing in her shadow, nothing's on her tail. Making the right onto 34th and heading towards the whole inn, her heart drops. It beating in her chest falls like a rock from a mountaintop, speeding towards the ground like a comet, heating up as it strikes the center of her being. The whole inn is closed. The ground, specifically, is closed. Its lights are off. There's none of the usual barfly hustling and hubbubbing about. Seemed as if Haas and Oliver didn't in fact open the place tonight. Seemed as in fact, based on the number of cars in the parking lot at the whole inn, that the area is rife with tourists. And a hole in the wall is a hole in the wall, but the one thing you don't do ever is mix the new, the fly-by-night, with the old. Their assistant, their thrall, hedging their bets, taking the excess upkeep of people needing a nap rates and needing to sleep and needing to prep and pregame for visiting the Ebon Queen, did not risk their license or the attention of having the ground open without the brute squad that is Haas and the central ringmaster that is Oliver present. And speaking of Haas and Oliver, tumbling through the nothingness of no space. Because even space, in the distance, there's the glimmer and flicker of far-flung stars and the darker aspect of black holes and the twisting kaleidoscopic combining of energies that reached Earth and created humankind out there in the blankness and emptiness. This nothingness is in fact that. Up is in any direction you point. Down as well. There is an immense amount of effort that would cause such a thing. What is it that you all do?
So,
you go first.
Yeah, I got a bit of a question. So nobody, just from a kind of meta narrative here, we slammed into something, right?
Yes.
All right. So the first thing I suppose that Oliver is doing is unable to feel the inertia.
Did we fall through the windshield?
I wasn't in the fucking cab. I said I hopped in the bed.
Did Haas fly through the windshield?
Yes, without feeling whatsoever.
Well, we know that the truck's totaled. Oliver, do you have a plan? Because I know I have a plan. You know my plan is.
I'm pretty sure this isn't even my truck.
It's my truck.
I'm so sorry.
You keep driving my truck.
I keep driving your shit because I break all of mine.
Yeah. No, so Haas is, confused, annoyed, and starting to get rather pissed. And I think we all know what happens when Haas gets annoyed, confused, and pissed.
He goes to his room and has a tea.
I don't know, he's gonna rouse for prowess and Wrecker. And do some fun things by swinging this truck in every direction.
Oh, poor Oliver.
I like the idea that, we can't see it, but we're actually in the middle of a park or, a baseball game.
Look, man, unless we got teleported. Okay, let's rouse for prowess. Hey, we're at Hunger 4 now, guys.
Alright, well, I believe this is not the first time that the pair have been engulfed in darkness rather recently. I remember either a scene or a voice game but a couple months ago where this similar situation happened, and when Oliver went looking for Haas, he nearly got his shit decked. So I think Oliver's first prerogative is not getting close to wherever the fuck Haas might be.
He's just gonna grab the front of the car and start swinging.
So we're gonna try and just look for cover over on my side. I'm gonna feel my way around, try and, I suppose, make my way to somewhere safe.
Alright, well, that being the case, being as it is roughly working together, one, Oliver clearing the path for potential destruction, unaware as to what destruction that might be, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your dexterity and athletics, and being as you're roughly working together, take a -1. Haas, you're going to roll your strength plus melee, and we'll add the bonus from prowess after. And roll as high as you possibly can.
Now, would Wrecker apply to this dice pool just to make sure?
It's the reason why you're not taking any additional penalties outside of the -1, even with Oliver co-assisting by clearing the way, as it were, or attempting to incidentally divide the focus of those entities nearby. So you're only a -1 total.
Oh, instead of the -3?
Yes.
Okay. That's going to be dice pool 6.
Alright, so...
I don't know. You think we should rouse for strength just to see if we can get as high as we can?
Oh yeah, we like bestials.
Absolutely, man. So, the way that I see it, the spice of life is go burr.
Go
Well, thankfully, we didn't hit Hunger
Spice of life go burr.
5. We didn't hit Hunger 5, so we're rousing for strength, guys.
Okay.
And succeeded.
Oh, sorry, no, me spitting right there was because I thought I saw him get 7 successes. Oh, that was scary for a moment. That's just dice 7.
So that's gonna be 8 dice. We're at hunger 4.
Wow,
Well, that's
really?
just bullshit.
Roll that willpower, baby. You got this.
Oh my. Oh.
Ooh, that ain't good.
That's not
That's
good,
just
but
bullshit.
it's better.
That's great, actually.
I know I can tell so.
That is positively excellent. And you may not think that. Looking at that outcome.
A lot of ones.
Yes. It's the reason why that is in fact great. Because none of those ones are on your hunger die. So while you are blindly unable to feel, see, hear, or smell anything, you manage to not swing this truck like the oversized bat that you are using it as, like the mace that you are attempting to use it as. You manage to not swing this very flammable vehicle into the very nearby gasoline towers of the gas station you are attempting to speed out of. You manage to not cause another gas station incident on the coast. You
Can I do it instead?
Another?
Yep. Another.
It'd be funny. Let's explode.
As just Oliver can't feel it, but there was maybe 3 centimeters between the back of his head and the bumper of a car.
You're not sure why the movie of your life, death, and continued existence is playing out behind your eyes, but fate, ever the tricksy, curious, anxious being that it is, just knew that it was over for Oliver and decided, as per its ritual, showing you the movie of your existence up until now so that you will have something to pass into the great beyond with. And it's playing there behind your eyes, even though you can't see anything around you, hear anything around you, but your life is flashing before your unseeing eyes with how close the vehicle swings by you. Speaking of swinging by you, you've decided a course of action. It is a good course of action. Nothing holds a kindred hostage to your will and your whims like a well-placed stake. So, taking the stake and using the stake. Well, there are a few different disparate things. Taking the stake is prying something from someone else's hands. Easy enough. Size, distance, leverage, all those things working in your favor. One hand on the steering wheel, smashing the gas, just in case. Because after all, if you all were to wreck, well, there's a chance. There's a chance that things will work in your favor. Using the stake, however, is another matter entirely. One-handed. You're going to attempt to slam it home. You're going to attempt to pierce the rib cage and drive this stake through the smaller woman. Elias, have at it, sir.
Alright, will this be a brawl or will this be a melee?
It is melee, yes.
Oof. Alright. I need to make sure that this one strikes true in the turbulence of it all. I'll kind of step on the brakes a bit to give me that extra few seconds to prevent them from getting a proper seat in their chair. And I will rouse for some potential more.
Go ahead, wait till after.
Oof.
All right.
If it's worth it, it's worth it. Come on now. That'd be what, 2 extra dice?
Yes.
Alrighty. Lethal body from Potman's wouldn't assist in this in any way, would it?
No.
Alrighty. That's it'll be 6. 4 hunger. That's 3 difficulty. Oh, I'm gonna do a reroll. 4.
So very close. There is a skill that most of the old Hammer movies didn't drive home, pun 100% intended. It is never easy, even with training, to harm something smaller. It is far more difficult than we put value in. Size makes all the difference in the world. Motion also adding to that natural pretty privilege. So as you slam home the stake, its slightly blunted wooden tip cracking the sternum loud enough to be heard from a distance. The cry of pain that you are expecting doesn't come. The exhalation of any emotional response to being stabbed through the chest is missing. She, who was settling into peace, her face falling from the smile that had been there to a placid, tranquil nothing. The smile springs back. The eyebrows arch skyward as fangs, which you know had to be somewhere there, slam into place with such speed you can hear it like a knife springing from a hilt.
All right. Oh, that's smart.
And unfortunately, in such close proximity, you both will receive a bonus of +1 to any striking attempt going forward. What is your total strength?
3.
Okay. The reason why I asked, because a stake doesn't actually cause damage if successful. But the force and kinetic energy. And luckily for Kindred, their internal organs outside of their heart are never an issue. So as the stake slams through their lungs, cracking their sternum and the ribs around and connecting to the sternum, missing the spine by a fraction of a few inches, far to the right, more than it should be, just off center enough to miss the heart, and just far enough off center to the right to cause a gruesome sucking chest wound. There's something mildly intriguing about seeing a brief flicker of the lungs through the ribs and broken bones therein, with pieces of almost white, pinkish bone fragments adhering and sticking to the stake. There's something almost intriguing about why didn't she scream? Why didn't she yell? Why, instead of a frown, that smile is sitting there? And then it happens. It goes from that frozen moment of nothingness where you could temporarily see to a blur of action, and the fight is joined. the intentions of clearly simply staking probably far enough from her mind to not be a factor at all. There's a resignation and resolution of intentions that slips behind those beautiful eyes with that rictus death-like smile falling into place. What is, in fact, Elias's intended course of action, seeing all of this transpire?
I think Elias will first shout out in pain after being pierced in the neck, I assume, with fangs in the fast blur motion.
Well, it hasn't happened yet, but there is very much a possibility.
I think... Is the stake still within the chest?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think Elias would do an emergency parking, quote unquote. He's not focused as much on the car right now, but bring it to a stop as much as possible. And with one hand, grasp the shoulder for more leverage, and the other to get better purchase with the stake. So I suppose I would like to try and grapple them to some effect.
Okay. So instead of a dodge, per se, you're attempting to effectively block and maneuver with the stake and slamming on the brake for the car. So you won't get a penalty for the additional actions all in one. Unfortunately, it would lose you the initial +1 of being in close combat. What you can do with at this point being is it is a block and not a dodge. It's going to be your strength plus athletics.
Strength plus athletics. Alright.
And you're going to roll as high as possible because it is contested at this.
That's 8 dice right there. Why did that? Oh, that went up real quick. Oh my god, do I rouse? I'm almost at 5 hunger, y'all.
I don't know, man. I like the burn bright, burn out style of life, so...
Remind me again what happens at 5 hunger?
Nothing bad.
What do you mean nothing bad? Well,
It's no longer your problem once you hit 5 hunger. It's everyone else's problem.
It's a matter of
it is
perspective,
everyone
really.
else's problem. It's
I don't
more,
think-
well, it depends on where you are, where it feels like it's also your problem.
Look, if you're in a highly populated area, you won't be at hunger 5 for long.
True.
But if you are
I-
in a situation like House and Order right now, you might be sucking on gasoline very soon.
I don't think this is... Despite it all, I think that he has some wherewithal to not immediately go beast mode.
Yeah,
I
so
think-
use the rounds.
No.
Do it, don't be a pussy.
No
Shit, you got me.
You don't have to do it. You can.
Nah, he said it. He said the magic words.
Peer pressure.
Every man knows those words. It is a challenge from God himself.
Alright.
By my right as an ST. Not right now, but by my right as an ST, by the end of this session, everyone will be hunger 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Truly, it is ordained.
Nobo. I will rouse, but can I also argue brawl instead of athletics? I'm okay with no.
Not for a block. You're not.
Oh, it's okay, block part. Okay, I understand. Alright.
Yeah, I believe it's like the raw mechanics of the system that if you're trying to defend, it's athletics over
Fair
brawl.
enough. What if I don't defend, and I just go for the stake?
Oh, take your chances, my dear boy. Let's see what happens. Risk it all.
Alright, still athletics?
Tempt you? Really quickly, can I tempt you with something, Elias? If you're
I'm here.
attempting to attack here, there is something called all-out attack, you know. It's quite beautiful in my
What
opinion.
is that, good sir?
It allows you to deal more damage.
Welcome to our ATMD5 podcast, where we teach you the mechanics slowly and in a weird-ass way.
Yeah, so like, just like how Rouse is not bad from a certain perspective, all-out attack is not bad from a certain perspective.
Would I have to make a rouse check to do this?
Nope, it's free.
But the stake wouldn't do damage, really. It'd just be trying to get...
Oh no, it'll do more damage if you use the stake against them.
No, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna go for the rouse.
Yeah! Risk it.
I risk it for these.
That's what we're looking for. That's what it's all about.
Oh, no, nobody. I think my words were misunderstood there. I mean, if you hit them with the stake, all-out attack gives you, basically just a +2.
Yes.
Oh, shit. Let me look that up real quick. Oh.
No, don't look it up. You don't need to read the rest.
Okay, if you know what, fair enough. I'm going for rouse. I don't think I've ever gotten a single rouse in this campaign.
You've got this.
That has to happen now, right?
Well,
Sweet.
Yeah!
That's what we've been waiting for.
Let it be known for the record. I don't think I've ever gotten a single rouse success.
If we weren't recording this, I would 137% play the "he's pulling it out" sound clip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what I think happened. First, let me roll. I think what happens is that he tries to park the car in a certain way, maybe with a little bit of stoppage, but enough that it's reasonable. And I think that in the spur of the moment, it's all too much. He doesn't care about where the car goes. He wants whoever this person is dead.
And remember, when you make the roll with 4 hunger, not 5.
Oh, well, that's all right. So let's see. That'd be 3, 5, 7.
You know what the benefit is? You have a nice, tasty body right next to you now.
Oof! I gotta re-roll and hope I get something nice.
Yes, burn the willpower.
Nope. Well,
that's exactly what I wanted to see.
it was nice having Elias.
Hey, you'll still have him in your heart. Well,
All right, Nobu. Lay it
Don't
on.
worry, Nobu wouldn't kill any of us in a voice game.
Why do I get the feeling that's a joke?
So,
I had the biggest shitty grin right now. Don't you know?
intense moments, in moments of extreme tension and pressure and stress, most witnesses, most people that are involved always say that time dilates down. Everything was happening so fast. Or combatants always say it felt as if those seconds lasted hours. Your mind is perceiving and taking in all of the minutiae and minute details of everything around you. And even as your mind is taking it in, there is a velocity or a speed of things that happens just outside of your ability to understand. You still take all of the details in, you still see everything that's happening, but it's happening too fast. Your mind, your eyes working faster than your mind has the ability to process. Adding to that, the endorphins, the adrenaline, the several hundred other considerations of what happens after. Because even in stressful situations where there is literal lives on the line, the mind instinctively says, and then what? Tomorrow, what am I going to do? Tomorrow night, what is it that's going to happen for me? Because the idea of it all coming to end in a flash of light, in a flash of action, is almost impossible to fathom in that moment. There's not much time to prepare. And sometimes fate is a little slow with rewinding and replaying the events of your life. It still gets there, but a little slower than it should. It happened after or during instead of just before. This situation is such a one for Elias. He didn't realize in the few seconds that pall of shadow that had encompassed him. He didn't realize that darkness of the never ending after of oblivion had disappeared. He was able to see who he was attacking clearly. He didn't realize that the world began to speed by as he attempted to negotiate the parking of the vehicle. All of those things happening too fast for him to recognize or realize, to quite understand, even though he was taking all of those details in. And for the first time since his death, instead of being the one cleaning up behind someone else's issues with their intrusive thoughts. Instead of cleaning up behind something else's inner monster, he finds himself watching third person as his own best, worst, most consistent friend and presence. Gently removes him from control and the driver's seat of his being. He watches in the third person as monster to monster, dead thing to dead thing. These small, skilled, clearly assassin trained or some other mystical video game hero that was that small bob haircutted Persian Scarlett Johansson with the huge chunk of wood sticking out of her chest made short work of him, trussing him, beating him, keeping his monster from escaping the vehicle, keeping her monster from, well, ending him. And as the fury of his monster and the world drips into red, we turn our gaze towards the college campus. Being alone in the dark is scary. Being in the dark with things that you suspect are enemies is even worse. The natural paranoia of the willingness to survive causing Cheval to perceive things as they wish instead of as they are. There is a unshakable faith and belief that they have the wherewithal to survive, escape, elude, evade, and continue fighting whatever needs to be fought in whatever way they can, because their faith will not allow them to give in. Their faith will not allow them to accept things as they are. Their faith will not allow them to go quietly into the dark that has removed every sense of geographical awareness from them, that has crushed and squeezed every remaining attempt at living from their limbs. Every camouflage of living gone, simply because the absence of everything has attenuated their senses to the very hoary edge. It has pushed the fake semblance of breathing from them. There's no soft brush of forced vitae movement in their system. There is only darkness and the unwillingness to yield to it. Nothing has touched them. Nothing has motion past them. They can't and haven't felt the missing of a wide arced haymaker. They don't feel or hear anything, but they know that as long as they pump their legs, as long as they keep swimming, as long as they keep moving, that there is hope. And they keep doing just that. They keep moving, keep dodging, keep twirling, keep dodging, keep ducking, keep dipping, keep diving, keep flipping, keep moving, because the darkness has to relent. There has to be and as it feels as if forever is this darkness, as it feels because of the lack of being able to orient and pathfind and find a fixed star to plot, find a fixed landmark to plot, because of the absence of input. What is it that's going through Cheval's mind and or heart? Because she's cartwheeled, she's flipped, She spun. She's attempted to use what had previously been what she believed was the landmark of the building. She has maneuvered and twisted and turned, and this darkness feels as if it's unending.
Well, she's starting to pray, but she's also not going to rest on her laurels to do that. So, even though, like, it's only in her head, because heightened senses has long ago told her that the physical means something very different in whatever alternate space she's in right now. So, while she's still, like, apparently she hasn't been grabbed yet, so this jumping around has done something. She's still able to do it. She is going to pray for release while she continues trying to get away. Praying that God creates light in the midst of this.
There is an understanding that all things through faith. There is an understanding that nothing is impossible. And having seen the wreck and ruin of several generations of unending warfare, the result of urban warfare, the effects of being and existing consistently and constantly embattled, and what it does to the body and the mind. Not just the gruesome and graphic injuries caused by actual warfare, but the effects of existing where war is. Knowing that at any moment, at any second, all it takes is one flickering spark in the dark to unleash hell on earth, both physically, mentally, and emotionally. To live with that hate, because there are crimes that happen in war that are unforgivable. And an entire society built in, soaked in, steeped in war on such a consistent, unending cycle of violence twists things. It breaks things in the very fabric of society when those not old enough to understand the difference between night and day even understand the realities of living with war, understand the realities of living with hate in their hearts, that sickening, stomach-churning roiling of enmity at your neighbor. It does things. And while nothing is impossible, the realities of that Cheval has experienced as a trauma doctor begins to settle in, as light does not pierce the darkness, as the darkness is not dissipated, as the forever of this moment tests and toys at the edges of her faith, tests and toys at the edges of her reason. She's seen magic. She's seen the truth of what the Banu Hakim are. Their wariness against all troubles. Their existence and adherence to their faith driving them ever forward. This is the absence of faith in tomorrow. This is the absence of life. This is the absence of hope. This is the distilled essence of war and its experiences, that enmity, that cold hate of everything, and it's creeping into her being, sliding along her skin. It is the only sensation she has. Her heightened senses turned up to 11, and the only thing that answers back, not the sound of her feet against whatever it is that she is not touching, not the whisper of motion and activity, not the swish of her clothes against her body. It is nothing.
This is only going to drive her to pray harder. And at this point, it's also going to include an ask for guidance, because she doesn't know if this flipping is getting her out of the darkness or further into it. And she has no way of knowing outside of some outside intervention letting her know.
In the face of the absence of everything, would you be so kind as to roll your composure plus occult?
I don't know why the engine likes to give me 10s today, but apparently it do.
Thanks for your 10, so I was giving them all to you.
No matter what, just a 10. A messy crit, a full-on crit, doesn't matter. Nope, just
well, the messy crit on evasion with that 7 dice on the previous one, I'm still stuck in Oblivionville. So I'm not sure what this is going to do, but I mean, there's. Yeah, because this is such a harrowing situation, though, I am going to re-roll the failure. Great, 5 with a messy.
There's been a lot of that tonight.
Powers at 4.
And by that, it literally is the improbable and impossible conflating into where we are now. There are scriptures and myths and gossips and tales and word of mouth understandings of several well-known apocryphal tales. One of them, of course, being Jesus and the moneylenders, the money changers outside of the temple. The other being the walls of Jericho. The other being Samuel baptizing Jesus. There are hundreds of thousands of variations on the theme. And yet, proof of one's faith often shakes one to the core, often moves one into an agnostic sense. Kindred are not living. They're not victims of chemical imbalances of one way or the other. Kindred are very much dead. Kindred are very much the antithesis of life, a vacuum needing to be filled. Javal pushes and pours and samples and sips and wrings and sucks the marrow out of every instance she can in regards to filling herself with the essence of her former faith, because that is what it is. Former. She is in existence, flouting the laws of governance that kept her, well, that helped her, that led the path to her death. Who she was is not what she is present. And every scrabbling craving, clawed existence, holding on to every facet of what she was, has met with abject failure. It has met with signs and sigils that she has had to contort herself mentally and emotionally to hold on to what she was. And for the second time since her arrival on the coast, she and her beast have had enough of this world telling her that she is no longer who she was. She and her beast have had the absolute penultimate end of all of that foolishness. Feeling nothing, hearing nothing, seeing nothing, tasting nothing. She lashes out in prayer as she's doing so, her beast subsuming her presence just enough to sink rictus formed clawed appendages into something. Her sense of taste is gone because there's no scent. Her sense of sight is gone because there's no light. Her sense of hearing is gone because there's nothing being amplified or bouncing off of anything back to her. And yet in all of this, her beast sinks fingers and tries to get her to sink fangs into this invisible, untouchable, unknowable, to embrace her faith despite every fact otherwise. And while she can't feel it, she knows she has struck something that is different than the other nothingness around her. And it gives her purchase. It validates her faith in this moment. For the first time, she and her beast pray together. For the first time, she and her beast take a sip from that absent fellowship of her beliefs, as this, whatever this is that her fingers have sunk into, proves that the nothingness is not in fact nothingness. That there is, even in this darkness, some semblance of light. And speaking of some semblance of light, on the edge of everything, existing alone, surfing the waves of kindred community, has profited what it has profited. But here in the dark, here in this moment, you've never been more alone. The future folding out in front of you, that brief flickering image of the potentiality of what could be, what might be, what could eventually somehow definitively is going to happen, makes you in this moment even more alone. Emerald, there's a choice, there's a decision, there's a fork in the road, and there's no road sign.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry about that.
These things happen.
So, wait, so did Cheval bite Emerald, or?
With the vast knowable potentialities in the offing, what, if anything, is Emerald's choice of actions?
Well, he had that weird-ass vision, so... He didn't get any bearing on his surroundings from that vision, right?
No.
So what does he feel right now?
It's impossible to see nothing, and yet that's what persists around him. It is impossible to feel nothing, but that's what's around him right now. After that brief flickering glimpse of potential futures unraveling and happening now and in the future of now, in this nothing, in this absence, alone, as always, what does Amaral choose to do?
Here. Can you try to tap into the network and use premonition? See what like get some foresight into what his next action should be?
An attempted
Premonition, yeah.
purposeful use of seeing the kaleidoscopic potentialities of the future.
Well, ideally, like future, like in a few seconds, like this, like see what's going, yeah. Like short term, ideally.
Yes. Tap into the powers of the beast. Go ahead and rouse. And then roll your resolve and auspics.
Can I rouse again for power?
Go ahead. There's a bird. Freezing. The icicles form all around it. Winter's not only arrived, but it arrived like a thief in the night. The obvious thing, of course, was to have not been there. But instead of flying south, instead of escaping, the bird held on because it was such a beautiful view. It was so easy being here, and all the other birds flew along their way because they flocked together. But this particular bird hung out at the edge of the flock, stayed to itself, stalking and watching from a distance as the other birds went along their merry path. And winter came, and it was decision time. And instead of deciding forward or back, the bird waited and watched and procrastinated and thought and attempted to add, though birds don't know multiplication or division, let alone addition, but it attempted to do all of those things to make a decision, a simple choice: fly south or stay. And in not choosing, the bird ended up staying in his nest as winter fell. And because the bird stayed in its nest, winter came, the king fell, the network exploded, and literally Amaral is watching as interconnected systems of information, including the very fabric of their own network, spontaneously combust as the king, the child of a king, the prince, if you will, is immolated and destroyed, because in the oncoming of winter and the other birds flocking south, this bird stayed in winter, trying to decide what was the best course of action. There is no wrong choice, of course, save not choosing. And the bird, in its preparations of choosing, chose neither forward nor back, and the prince ended up dying. The king ended up not existing. Winter fell. And it's only as that begins to make no sense whatsoever that the bird realizes when it fought off the other birds that attempted to make it fly south to save the prince and save the king and save the kingdom, to keep the networks from falling, it had already made its choice. In escaping the other birds who attempted to snatch it from its nest and fly it south, it had already made its choice. It's only in realizing that by not making a choice, by not accepting that the bird was responsible for the death that followed. The bird was responsible for the falling of the network. The bird was responsible for all of those individuals connected with what was that would never have a what would be.
Alright, he's gonna try to like just take that in, and then he's gonna like try to like stagger around trying to find a wall or something.
Alone. Lonesome. It's funny because being alone doesn't always mean that you are in fact lonely. And being enmeshed in a crowd of people doesn't always mean that you are actually taking fellowship, even though you are in the midst of it. Perception changes everything individually and nothing in regards to absolutes. Most people would assume that the whole in and the ground were in fact the same and synonymous thing. They are existing on the same property. They are owned by the same owner. They are, for the most part, catering to the same clientele, at least the same strata of society clientele. But they are in fact separate and completely divisible. And seeing the ground closed is like being the last person in line to get through the gates of heaven as Michael decides to take a break for the evening. The golden gates closing and the lock slamming into place, so close to heaven and yet left out. That's what it feels like watching, seeing as you close on the hole in the ground, and while the hole in is rocking off the rafters. The rails don't matter at this point. This train is floating on water. There are cars and vans and trucks, and people are hanging out on the corner of the building, sipping and drinking from their case of 32 Busch Lights, hot as Satan's testicles. But it's still beer, and it's delicious in this moment. Smoking Chesterfields, Lucky Strike, and Marlboro in rapid succession with Winston and, well, worse. The clouds of smoke, both tobacco and illegal. And the haggard individuals coming back from their trip to wherever they were. And Vanessa knows they were clearly on the ebb, and there's no way that you could be this happy and be this despicable all at once. So they had the time of their nights, potentially the time of their lives. They left with less money in their pocket, less money in their bank account, and for many of them, she is sure, based on their behaviors, less blood in their bodies. She's fed on people who were slightly inebriated and watched as that slight inebriation ratcheted up to great inebriation. She's fed on people who've imbibed things chemically that were to mitigate and minimize the pain. And after imbibing on them, their level of inebriation skyrocketing exponentially. She sees the signs of overindulgence plus. On those gathering in the parking lot, leaning against cars, hanging out at the corner of the hole in, and otherwise indulging in loitering and vagrancy. And they're too well dressed to be the usual clientele for the hole in. They're a little better dressed. than this area typically sees. What is it, if anything, that Vanessa decides to do?
How are they dressed?
Well, better than the usual clientele of the Whole Inn, better dressed than the usual clientele of the ground, better dressed than the average person strolling along the sidewalk in this area on most other nights.
Like, are they wearing a dress, or are they like office or business clothes?
High quality designer type shit, like, you know, well kept clothing, it looks clean, it looks pressed.
It looks like the kind of person that used to go to that bar before we got it.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, rather than like Jerry, the minimally paid fucking office worker, this kind of looks like Jerry's boss.
They kind of got the look in their eyes that make you want to punch them really fucking hard.
Mm-hmm. Like they, yeah. As Haas said,
they look like they wear too much cologne.
Uh-oh.
As Haas said, these people look like they would fit right in a much like higher end establishment, like a nightclub, which is no longer operational.
So feel free to tell us that this is not the case, nobody.
No, you're absolutely perfect. There's a difference in how and whom are in the area. My natural inclination is to ask, what do you mean in regards, what is it that you're actually attempting to drive at with asking what specifically they're wearing?
I was wondering if it was just like, something that like you're a security guard or an FBI agent, like security at a high-end motel, or things of the nature. But they're just wearing like nice designer clothes. That's it.
Based on the information that you're attempting to obtain, which is not actually relevant, you'd be so kind as to roll your wits plus streetwise or larceny.
I believe it's right there on the left. I think it's a physical skill.
Oh, okay. So you said wits and larceny?
Or streetwise.
It's gonna be wits and larceny. Oh, this is gonna be so bad. Oh no, I'm scared. Oh boy. I'm debating whether or not to re-roll or not, but that success.
Right.
I believe in you.
No, that kind of success though on her hunger die.
Do it! Come on, you know you want to.
I always make good decisions with my rolls, so I think that you should re-roll.
Following Elias's steps.
If you don't click the button, I will.
She's not a hunger 5 or anything.
I mean, this information is really important to you, isn't it? It'll decide the next.
It's so important that we're rolling for it.
It's like yes and no, but definitely like
Come
yes.
on. Anything worth rolling for is worth rolling big.
Just do it!
It's worth rolling at least one success.
Oh, my finger slipped.
Oh, what a chance.
That wasn't,
but it's okay.
That wasn't the finger slip.
But that's fine, that's fine. It's
I'm
fine.
depressed.
It's fine. I rolled it, it didn't crit. That's what I was scared of.
I wanted to have little fang marks. Why doesn't it have little fang marks? No, boo. Can I get MS Paint?
MS Paint's free. I think you can.
I'm sorry, but it's not in the budget. You're gonna have to wait till next year.
Aww.
All right, so here's the situation. A clearly readable moment. These individuals who are clearly at the Disneyland for adults. These individuals who clearly found a cheap motel to pregame and in many cases post-game, having gone to said Disneyland. And with the Ebon Queen, the second largest steamboat in the continental United States, in its unusual, very rarely used docking situation, taking up the space of several dozen cargo container ships. These people are post-party and pre-gaming, and with the ground closed, the individuals who put on their Sunday best, their club going chicest, who dressed and actually washed themselves for an evening amongst the stars. While the question for some others might have been, how did these poor individuals, these average individuals for this area, dress so well to afford 15 minutes on the Queen, let alone to be able to party on the Ebon Queen? Vanessa is not like others. A lifetime at war and the early foundational years of their death, a continuation of that in the most animalistic way possible. The standard war that most modern individuals understand involves firearms, explosives, fire, the occasional tank or aircraft, as well as the unmanned and sometimes not even actually understandable as a drone flying and dropping and devastating. The idea of warfare is ingrained. The idea that the federal government, either in its local agents, its regional agents, its national agents, will intercede in their ongoing war against every non-federal employee. And sussing out designer labels, and sussing out opportunities for there to be someone who's a little more interested in their cell phone than they should be, who's not aware of their surroundings, someone who's clearly casing the individuals all about them, including Vanessa and Sasha in their stolen vehicle. And in the doing, and in the understanding of, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get you. Just as there's almost a breath of, a sigh of, a moment to vent some of that pressure building as those faces, that activity is too much, they're too well dressed, there's got to be something afoot. This is absolutely, she spots it. She spots the white van at the back end of the parking lot, parked close to the building. The white contractor's van parked too close to the building, the far door on the opposite side of the building. There aren't any windows in the back portion of that van, yet it's parked almost abutting the exit door for the whole inn. And that triggers her spidey sense. That is clearly someone up to no good. That is clearly some federal employee with mirror sunglasses and some suit that is off the rack, covering some bulletproof shell vest. There is clearly some overworked, underpaid federal drone listening in and keeping watch through some small antenna she can't see from this distance. It is clearly the man coming for her.
I'm thinking.
Well, that's good.
I hope so.
Just don't overdo it. I've heard that's bad for you.
Unfortunately, I did that all the time. It
Instinct.
can't be helped.
Instinct is your best friend.
If we do instinct, it's like I want to play it smart. I'm trying to think either to just either keep an eye on them, but you know, keep it on the down low, or to just full on greet them, but oh yeah, Max is right there, right? One of Oliver's goals.
Right where?
Like at the bar.
What bar?
You're outside.
Oh, she's outside. Oh! Oh!
Whatever. Closed.
He said white van, no windows in the back. Nicely dressed.
Do or do not. There is no try.
It is
I'm trying to think.
33. It's 33 of the hour. Let's take a quick 7 and be back here at 40 after the hour.